Should you forgive lying and low integrity behavior, or is she for the streets?
I think on some level, everybody tells little white lies here and there, but character's destiny. If you got somebody that's lying to you about lots of little things, then you wonder, like, what are the big things that that person's lying about? And I've heard a lot of crazy stories over the years. It's like I was talking to a guy the other day, and he'd been with this girl for. He started dating her this past year. I think they were 8-10 months. I think they were dating, and like when they first met, she's in her 30s, early 30s, and she claimed that she was a virgin and had never had sex before. And like they had sex that first night, and he's like, he's in his 40s, I think, and he's like, that wasn't her first time. He was just like, there's no way this woman's early 30s and never had sex. And so but she was adamant about it, just totally adamant, totally believable. They had a great connection, like you have with your significant other. It was like that. It was better than anything's ever had with any woman. He's like, the sex really isn't even that great with her, but he could tell. He's like, she knew what she was doing. It wasn't her first trip, and so she maintained this for like a long period of time. And then like a couple months later, he was like, "Hey, it's like, what was the real story with because there was another guy, I guess, that she was texting with or something like that." And so supposedly her one sexual experience was some guy that she used to work with, and he happened to be married, but it never really went anywhere, and it was just a real short thing. And so he's like, months down the road, he's like, something's off with that too. He's like, just what really happened? She's like, no, it never went anywhere. And so they continued dating, and then, a few months ago, it's just like little things just didn't seem to add up. Like he would, so he goes through her phone and he looks through like location and stuff like that, and then is, getting data of like where she was and where her phone was. And, he knew times when he was with her, and that all lined up. And then there was one night in particular, it was like late at night. She's like, hey, I'm going to go to bed, love you, see you tomorrow, whatever. And after that, he noticed that the phone was somewhere else, where this guy works. That was, it was just like a one-time kind of hang out with this dude. And he's like, well, that's weird. So he brings it up to her, and she's like, oh no, that is wrong. That's, everybody knows that's wrong. It's like, no, it wasn't. Stuff wasn't wrong. She was lying to him. Mm-hmm. So he goes into her phone, and when she's not looking, and then he reads the messages, and it turns out this other guy that was just like a one night type of thing. It was like her only experience, but she was so drunk she doesn't even remember anything. And he looks through it, and it's like she'd been fucking this guy the whole time.
Oh, wow.
For several years, she'd been having an affair with a dude that's married.
Wow.
And she comes from supposedly a good family. Her parents are pretty religious, and the family, everybody else believes that she's all, they also believe that she's a virgin, and she's been lying to them too, because her parents are really strict. And so that's what happens when the parents are very overbearing and controlling. They think, I'm going to impose my morality on my daughter. Mm-hmm. You don't have a close relationship. And what happens is she just learns to lie and cover it up, because nothing she does is approved.
Right.
So, well, might as well just lie to mom and dad and the sister and make them think that she's this, goody two-shoes little Catholic, innocent girl.
Yeah.
In reality, she's, having affairs with married men that are going on for years and lying to the guy that she's in a relationship with. And come to find out, she was always fucking this other guy, even though they were together. And he had all the data. He'd looked through the phone. He'd seen all the messages, the nudes, the pics, everything. What? And she's adamant. And he's like, I looked through your phone. I saw everything. And then she finally kind of came clean and admitted, oh, okay, well, then she had excuses as to why she had done it. And, you know, in that case, his spidey sense, his intuition was always like, this just does not add up. And even he's telling his friends, they're like, that sounds like bullshit. And so because of her environment and how she was raised, she learned to survive by lying. And so her whole life was built on lies. Her whole family has this picture of this innocent little Catholic girl. Meanwhile, she's basically a lying, cheating whore that's cheating on her boyfriend. And she's cheating with a man who's married to another woman.
I know a guy just like that. It's so crazy. Like, he's perfect. And their eyes, like, even when I would talk to the parents and stuff, they're like, he's the greatest guy. Like, you would be lucky to, like, be wifed by him. You know, he's so innocent. He goes to work. He goes to school.
Yeah, and the mom's going, don't have sex with my daughter, you know, because they think they're applying pressure to the guy, not don't you seduce my daughter. She's a virgin until she gets married. And meanwhile, they have no clue.
Yeah. And I'm just like, little did you know the things he actually does outside of these doors. And even when you tell them that, it's like, no way. You're delusional. You're crazy. You're just jealous. And
you're controlling.
He probably did something that you didn't like, so you just want to say all these things about him. I'm just like, I have the facts, like, right here. And even then, when they see the facts, it's just like, well, he probably had a reason, you know. He was probably going through so much. What did you do to him? And I'm like, oh, gosh. Bye. You guys are delusional. They're all just delusional.
Oh, my God.
They become, like, compulsive liars. It's, like,
it's
scary.
a way of surviving. Character is destiny. And so, like, in this case, it took this guy the better part of the past year to figure out that this girl he's in a relationship with has been cheating on him since they became exclusive, and he thought that was his girlfriend. And then he finally learns the story, but it's like she only came clean because he had the evidence, and then she became better at hiding it because now she knows that he was going through her phone, and so she deletes messages and deletes stuff on her Snapchat and her history and everything, and so he doesn't really know, and it's obvious she's not going to be truthful because her life is just completely built on lies. The people that know her, that are closest to her, they have her own parents don't even know their own daughter, and they have no idea that they don't know their daughter.
Right.
They bought the image that she's been selling to them their whole lives.
She's been repressed.
Yeah, I was like, this is not your fault, dude. This is the way this is what her parents did to her.
Yeah.
So you just have to accept it, that she's not going to be loyal to you or anybody. And, you know, when you look at, and as I talked further with him, it was clear that, you know, he saw the red flags. But because he really liked her, he ignored them. He was like, oh, I can work with this. This is fine. But, you know, his spidey sense was always bothering him. His intuition was always going, this just doesn't jive with what she's telling me. And then he finds all this stuff out. And even then, he's like, you know, hoping that she'll change because he's never had that kind of a connection with anyone. It's just she's not going to be loyal.
Right.
And so it's tough for a guy to admit that and to recognize that when, you know, he's in his 40s and he's never been deeply in love with anybody or connected with anybody on that kind of level. And you find out that this person that you thought they were and this relationship that you thought you had, it's a fantasy. Because the reality is she's a lying, cheating whore. She's a fuck buddy, friends with benefits, sex playmate. That's it. She ain't going to be loyal to anybody. That's the type of woman that some dude will come along and marry her, and then 20 years later find out that half of his kids aren't even his because she was fucking everybody in the neighborhood. She fucked his best friend. She's fucking his next door neighbor, fucking his business partners. And it's like everybody in town knew that she was like the town bicycle. Everybody got to ride her. I've had guys I've done phone sessions with over the years, and they're flabbergasted. Like, we've been together 30 years. I had no idea.
Wow.
And it's like everybody in the neighborhood knew. And it's like once he finds out and then he talks to a few people, they're all like, it's about time you woke up. Like, how can you not see it?
Well, why wouldn't they say something?
Well, I mean,
I wouldn't be the one
his
to
best, you know, that
say
one particular guy I remember is like his best friend, you know, it started to click for him. One of his sons, I guess his oldest son, was sitting in his best friend's lap, and he was like, and his son is, you know, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, and he's looking at the two of them going, wow, my son sure looks a lot like my best friend Bob there.
Oh, Jesus.
And then he started kind of noticing that, you know, looking at his other kids and how most of them didn't really look like him. There was no resemblance. And then, you know, it's
horrible.
just that, you know, so the best friend is fucking his wife, and has impregnated her and probably didn't even realize that he was the one that knocked her up. So obviously he's not going to say, hey, I've been banging your wife off and on for the last 20 years. Or his business partners for that matter, or the next door neighbors. They're not going to tell him. But, the guy was kind of naive, and he looked back. It's like there was evidence, but he just was like, there's no way. He was like, she can't be like that. So he didn't want to believe it, and so anytime any evidence would come up, he would just dismiss it. She would lie to him about it, and he believed the lie.
Wow.
So other people are out there like that. They're just psychopathic.
Yeah.
You got to trust but verify, like Ronald Reagan used to say.
I used to say that same thing to this person. I would be like, I feel like I know you more than your family knows you. And it's actually scary because they don't know the true you. And they never will.
And they wouldn't believe it if they told them.
So do you think those kind of people, they could change?
Nope.
No?
People don't change who they are, and they may become a better version, but they typically don't change. A liar is always going to be a liar. A cheater is always going to be a cheater. Somebody that's going to swindle somebody else is always going to be swindling. It's you talk about that. We've done stuff talking about the Tate brothers, and what's her name, Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson's daughter, went to Romania and hung out with Andrew Tate, and so she was doing a podcast with her dad after the fact, and they were talking about that, and she's like, I felt like it was with a shark. I was like, that's because he refers to himself as the top G being gangster. Mm-hmm. And so if you look at all the things that they're charged with, because they still haven't had their trial yet. There's Romanian government is still doing their investigation. The Tates are like, oh, this is all blown over, everything's fine. It's like, no, it's not. It's still ongoing. Mm-hmm. And they just got rearrested. And it's like, when you listen to those guys, like on the Full Send podcast, about how they swindled dudes out of their life savings and they think it's funny.
Yeah.
This is Andrew Tate was the one bragging about that on the Full Send podcast. It's like, hey, that dude ain't going to change. Mm. They've been maintaining for years that they got out of the webcam business, and then years ago they were so, oh yeah, we don't do that anymore. And then come to find out all this stuff, the legal proceedings that are going on in Romania, is like, it's pretty obvious they continued doing it. They just lied to everybody else. And so there were rumors that they were gonna, like there was a streamer. He was like, hey, if you want to talk to us and do any more streaming, now is a good time because we're gonna probably be leaving Romania and we're not gonna come back, because they were talking about getting extradited to the UK, because the UK government wants them extradited, and the Romanian government's saying we're not gonna extradite them until we have our trial with them first, and they go through our legal process. So they got arrested, and I guess they got let out, and of course they're denying that they were going to flee Romania or anything. And it looks like what it kind of looks like was that the hammer was coming down on them, and they started talking to somebody who basically broadcasted on the internet, and the authorities were paying attention. They got back to the authorities in Romania, and they went and picked them up.
Wow, it's a huge thing.
So it's like I don't see those dudes changing at all. They're just better at hiding it. They've been doing that their whole lives. I don't see them changing, even though they, Andrew claims he's a Muslim now, and Christian Tate claims he's a Christian. It's like, we did a video on that a while back, and we went through the evidence and stuff. It's like, it doesn't look good for them. You can't outrun karma. Eventually, it's going to catch up to them.
Right.
And so all the people that, believed in them and supported what they said, they're all going to end up with egg all over their faces. So, nope, I don't see people changing. They just become better at hiding it. So even though they claimed they got out of the webcam business, they were still in it. They were lying. They continued to lie about it. Meanwhile, you got all these social media posts. You got their members area stuff where they're, the pimp and hose degree and all that stuff. It's
still up.
Well, people have recorded it and have released that stuff. So, I don't know if those particular things are there, but now they supposedly basically teach self-help and are, in essence, teaching a lot of the same stuff that I teach.